So let's start here, Sean, with Team USA. And, they're expected to win the gold. And so far, so good. They beat Serbia. Now, Serbia obviously had who many people think, including myself, is the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic. And then he had a squad with him that last summer, won or finished second in the World Cup. They got the silver medal without Jokic. So, you thought, okay, they're a pretty good team. We manhandled them, beat them by 26. And then today we met South Sudan, which had shocked America in almost beating them in an exhibition game, lost by a point on a last-second shot by LeBron James. And today it was kind of get back. We definitely took South Sudan lightly to take nothing away from them. But today we ended up putting it on them from the get-go, had the lead essentially, and beat them by 17. Now, before we get into everything, I was talking with some people earlier, and their exhibition games for Team USA were against teams in their group. So they played Serbia in an exhibition, played South Sudan. And someone was saying to me, was that really fair to not America necessarily, but like South Sudan? If they had never played America in that exhibition game, they would have had a chance. I'm not saying they would have beat them, but they could have snuck up, you know what I mean, on America like they did in the first game, and they almost beat them. Whereas this time when it really counted, you couldn't sneak up on them. So I thought there was some logic there, but nonetheless, it didn't matter. And one of the big stories today, Jayson Tatum, who had not played in the last game when we beat Serbia, and that was a huge story. He actually started this game with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Devin Booker, and Steph Curry. And instead of Tatum not playing at all, it was Joel Embiid, an MVP, who, did not see any time. I'm sure, and I don't know, Rob G, did Steve Kerr say something about it? I'm sure he was asked about it. But I'm without even knowing, I have to believe he talked to Embiid before the game and said, look, matchups, last game, Jayson Tatum didn't play. So this game, because of the matchups, they're smaller, they're quicker. We're going to give you the day off. But here's a quote from Steve Kerr.
Yeah, I wish we had the sound, but apparently it's hard to get that kind of stuff from overseas. Steve Kerr told the media the reason why he benched Joel Embiid was, quote, this is the fastest team in the tournament we're going to play. We wanted to match up. They made 14 threes against us in London. The whole game plan today was going to be about switching and staying in front of people. And then he also said later that Joel Embiid will start the next game alongside LeBron James, Steph Curry, Devin Booker, and Drew Holiday. So Jayson Tatum back to the bench.
Who do we know who they're playing?
Puerto Rico.
Okay.
All right, you said a lot. You said a lot. I'm going to have to put you on a word count moving forward the rest of the 3 hours. I got to be able to get my opinions and points in, Chris. Stop trying to bully me. I'm a guest in your house. To your first
That's right,
point,
you are. Remember that.
To your first point, 2 NBA MVPs notwithstanding, Nikolai Joker's not the best player in the world anymore.
Wait,
let's move on.
Who's better?
Let's move on.
Well, we might have to. We got 3 hours.
Right. We'll get back to that. I don't want to get bogged down in the first segment with that.
We will talk about this.
But he's not the best player in the world.
So I'm not even going to ask you to. I'm not going to have you spoil it. Right. Your answer, which is probably nonsensical, but we'll get to that later.
Secondly, Steve Kerr's tripping. They beat Serbia by, I think, 26. They beat Sudan today by 20, I think.
17.
Come on. Everybody should be getting minutes. I think in this stage of the tournament or the Olympics, well, it's a tournament, still their group, you're still trying to figure out what's your best 5. Like, I think the one thing that has kind of separated the team so far is anybody can have an off day and they can still win. Like, people talked about Tatum not scoring or not playing, right? They still won by 26. Today, Steph Curry was 1 of 9, 0 of 6 from 3, and they still won, but by 17. So I think they're so loaded offensively. They have so much firepower. I think people are just trying to make a big deal out of small things. But in if you're Steve Kerr, like, why does Tatum not get at least 10 minutes?
I agree with that. Like that whole.
I could see Embiid not playing because his injury
is too much.
Yeah, I could see him.
Time. That's ridiculous.
I could see guys like Embiid, Anthony Davis, if they're not playing a big team, them resting because of their injury history. But come on, man, Tatum's an athletic wing that can defend, that can score. There's no reason for him not to see at least double-digit minutes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I got no issue there. I will say this, like, we can't look at it like, oh, they blew them out by 20, so just empty the benches. Because, and look, the bench is great, right? We're talking about all NBA level players all throughout the roster.
Do they even have a bench, though, Chris? I mean, they've started like a different 5
Well, yeah,
each game.
I'm just talking about the only consistent starters have been LeBron, Steph, and Kevin. Well, I think it'll be Kevin Durant going forward, but really,
he didn't start
Embiid
today.
had been a consistent starter. But the only ones who started, I believe, every game is LeBron and Steph. But in the early rounds, it matters how much you beat a team by.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's calculated.
Point differentials factored into it.
Right. So, but again, you can't tell me you couldn't have put Jayson Tatum in and still blown out Serbia. Or Embiid in tonight and still blown out South Sudan. But I think the Embiid situation today, Sean, Steve Kerr took a lot of heat. Charles Barkley, Stephen A. Smith, Kendrick Perkins, like a lot of people, Rob Parker, jumped on Steve Kerr and many more than I just named for benching an all-NBA player in Jayson Tatum. So I honestly believe, and I don't know for sure, maybe he would have done it anyway, but not playing Embiid, which was a matchup, like I get the matchup thing, but not playing him at all, Sean, this helped Steve Kerr with the Jayson Tatum situation.
Absolutely.
Because he can now say, it was never about Jayson. Jason's a phenomenal player, and you saw we started him the next game, and we needed him. I mean, that team was athletic and stuff. It was always about the matchups. And like I said, I talked to Jayson before the game. I talked to Joel before this game. Every game, it may be a different player. I don't know. First of all, I don't know that that's the truth. And secondly, it doesn't have to be that way. Because to your point, everybody can get a few minutes. But this gives Kerr a somewhat believable and certainly logical explanation for why he didn't play Jayson Tatum.
Absolutely not. What could you be playing against and Jayson Tatum's a bad matchup?
No, I'm saying, I'll explain to you. But the matchups were. Like, they looked, Serbia was big and strong, and so they played three centers against them.
But you played Devin Booker, you played
right, and they have
White.
guards. Now, I agree, because Tatum obviously can play guard, but my point is just this. Now Steve Kerr can say with a straight face, it wasn't about Jayson Tatum. It was about the matchups. And Joel Embiid's one of the best 5 players in the world, and we didn't play him. So don't come at me. He wouldn't say it like this, but don't come at me like I benched Jayson Tatum, because it's just about 40 minutes. I can't get everybody in. There might be a player every game that doesn't play. Happened to be Tatum first. It was Joel Embiid second. Next time it might be he'll throw out a name, Devin Booker or something. So I'm just saying it gives him a little cover. I agree with you. I think it's hogwash, but it certainly gives him some cover.
I just think this is Steve Kerr's biggest flaw, because we've seen it manifest itself with the Warriors last year when he wouldn't play. Not Clay's last season there, the year before, when he wouldn't play Kuminga in a series where you knew you needed athleticism and youth. But he was in his feelings against Kuminga, wouldn't play him. I don't know if something happened between him and Tatum. I don't know if Tatum showed up late to shoot around, and I'm speculating. I have no factual evidence whatsoever. But I just think this might have been Kerr trying to prove a point to Tatum. I don't know what that point was, but I think that's one of Kerr's weaknesses. He's sensitive. He holds grudges, in my opinion, to certain guys.
So why do you think he didn't play Embiid? I think it was complete. I think it was very much related to the Tatum situation.
And see,
Do you think it wasn't?
Embiid's more believable because you're playing a smaller Sudan team. Anthony Davis and Bam give you way more athleticism, way more ability to run the court, get out on a fast break. I just don't know who you could play against with Jayson Tatum's not a great matchup for you.
Well, like I said,
especially when you play Derek White and Devin Booker and Anthony Edwards and Drew Holiday. It's hard for you to tell me Tatum sat because of matchup. I get Embiid.
Here's what Tatum has to tell himself for his own mental health, and sanity. This is not about, and I want your opinion before we go to break. This is not about who's better. Jayson Tatum is better than Derek White, better than Drew Holiday, better than Bam Adebayo, and I think he's better than Devin Booker. But he's got to understand they're not playing because they're better than me, or they didn't play that game because they're better than me. It's because of the, matchups or whatever Kerrs saw. But I know it's not because I'm not better than those cats. Do you agree with that? He
should be taking it personal. It should be about not who's better, who's the best. This is an identical scenario.
He ain't the best player on the team.
This is an identical scenario from the Dream Team. Magic, Bird are old. LeBron, KD are older. One of these guys got to step up and establish themselves because the throne is empty. Tatum should be trying to prove that I am now the best player in the world.
The throne wasn't empty.
Yeah, but it didn't necessarily have an occupant.
Jordan was on the throne.
It didn't necessarily have an occupant yet. It was the Game of Thrones. It was the Game of Thrones. Yeah,
Jordan had won the last 2 championships.
Hey, the Targaryens, the Starks,
who was fighting?
The King of the North. Everybody was fighting for the throne.
You saw that on. Who was challenging Jordan in '92?
Hey, Magic says him and Bird hadn't really relinquished it yet. They had heard Jordan knocking on the door.
They just didn't know that.
Olympic team was when they actually finally
in the league anymore. So,
if I'm Jayson Tatum and if I'm Anthony Edwards or Halliburton, any of these young guys, Devin Booker, I want to leave the Olympics with LeBron James and KD knowing in their mind that their time is past and I'm now it.
All right, that's fresh. I like that.